Welcome to
No.
welcome to Final Guys. Got the wrong podcast there. I am your host, Jason Brant. With me, as always, is the badass Jack Campisi. What's going on?
Hello, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good because Hunter Shea is not here. Thank God.
Woohoo!
We can actually have a good show for once. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that heartless bastard after the Spider-Man uh, pounding that he gave us. I think we could use a week off from him.
Yeah, the pounding that he gave us that everyone on the planet disagrees with him on.
Yeah.
Dumbass. But he is on vacation this week, and he didn't even get to see the movie. He was going to try and jump in here with us, but his internet connection seems to be running a little crappy, probably from all the porn he's downloading in the background.
I told you, gotta have a separate machine for that stuff.
Yeah, you got to have a dedicated wire running to it. It's just much better. So we're going to go just the duo this week, but we are going to talk about War for the Planet of the Apes. Can you hear that siren running in the background?
I cannot, but I'm waiting for the train to go behind me at some point.
That's really close. It's making me wonder what my neighbors are doing.
I
But
don't
anyways,
have I don't have earplugs in, so I don't hear stuff as well as you do.
okay. So before we get going on everything, why don't you do the huge and give us the news?
All right. Well, let's start off with some sad news. It was a very bad week. George A. Romero, who we were just discussing last week, passed away at age 77, which surprised me that he was only 77. He looked older.
He
Uh,
did.
so George A. Romero, the godfather of zombies, passed away. And then later in the day, just as we were all doing our Twitter post tributes to him and stuff, Martin Landau also passed away at the age of 89.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So Martin Landau, both of these guys I sort of walked by and said hi to in the hallways of Chiller Theater. I know Hunter has actually sat down and talked to George A. Romero and has a picture with him. He has a Dawn of the Dead script signed by Romero and several of the cast members, which is a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, it's such a good thing to have.
So I guess we could talk for a couple of minutes about each guy. I'll just tell you, I don't know, you might be too young for this, but my first exposure to Martin Landau was a TV show called Space 1999.
I don't think I know that.
So it was sort of a Star Trek, in the wake of Star Trek, like on Channel 11, they would show Star Trek reruns, and then Space 1999 came out. So it was the concept was something like the moon left Earth's orbit and was like hurling through space or something like that. And they had a moon base. So the people on the moon base were on the moon, and it was, I think, something like that. It's some pretty cool looking ships and guns and stuff like that. I didn't really watch the show all that much, but I remember the theme music and Martin Landau from that. And then, of course, he's got a pretty impressive resume. Ed Wood is one of his shining moments.
Oh, I love Ed Wood so much. It's hard. And so many people have never seen it, you know? It's incredible, but that movie's amazing.
This was actually the part of the show that I wanted Hunter to be in the most, because he would have a lot to say about each one of these guys, especially Martin Landau, because whenever you mention Martin Landau, he starts doing impressions of him from Ed Wood. Uh,
Let's shoot this fucker.
so then George A. Romero, this is the guy. I mean, when you think about monsters, there's vampires, werewolves, ghosts, and zombies. And the guy who took zombies from a voodoo thing that was in the fringe of literature and culture to the everyday thing that there's freaking zombie runs now, and little kids are dressing up like zombies and they're in TV commercials. It's all because of this guy. He's like, talk about a cultural icon.
Yeah, he's done so many amazing things. And unfortunately, over the last, oh God, probably 20 years now, people have really only dwelled on his later output. And he's had a really interesting career because, like you said, he's the guy who created zombies as we know it in its current incarnation. And he did it so well, and he did it with... So the social commentaries in his first two movies in particular were so on point that particularly Night of the Living Dead, it changed Hollywood by casting a black man as the lead. That was unheard of at the time. And to do it in this tiny little film about these gory ass zombies eating intestines and stuff that nobody had ever seen, it was brilliant, and it really changed the way
And it
movies
had the
were made.
balls to end that movie the way it did.
Just craziness. The stuff he did, and I don't even know how much we even need to say about Dawn. I mean, that movie is
I
just
want to say something about Dawn though, because Dawn is Night of the Living Dead. I guess for is public domain, so it gets shown all the time. Dawn of the Dead is never shown on TV. Like I hardly have ever seen it on cable or anything. I have like a director's like the 4 different version DVD set of it. That movie changed my life. I had heard about it, went to a midnight show, and the cultural impact of Dawn of the Dead. A lot of people haven't seen it, but they don't realize all the shooting zombies and all these shooter games and Walking Dead and everything. Dawn of the Dead is the movie that really changed the game, because that became like the humans fighting zombies and holing up in places, and what would you do with supplies, and the biker gang. So the danger might be the people more than the zombies. It's like he started in Dawn of the Dead, but he like perfected it. And I mean, he started it in Night of the Living Dead, but he really perfected it in Dawn of the Dead. And everything that came, like every zombie thing that came since then, Dawn of the Dead's really the one that they were, stealing from.
100%. That movie is just a landmark. A landmark, not just in horror films, but in just films in general. That guy, I feel like a lot of people who are probably under 30 have seen some of his newer stuff and just think it's crap. They've probably never even seen the old Dawn, probably never seen the old Night
Yeah,
of the Living
everybody's
Dead.
seen the Zack Snyder one, which Zack Snyder thanked him on Twitter. Robert Kirkman thanked him. There's a website, The Daily Dead. They were like, this site doesn't exist without him. There's so many people out there. The guys who did Shaun of the Dead, that was a whole love letter to him. So pretty big figure, and probably unheralded in his lifetime.
And we were on here last week trashing the guy.
Trashing him. His later stuff wasn't that good, man.
That's not even. That's being kind. I mean, let's be honest.
I'm being kind.
The last few movies were just really rough, and but most people's careers have ups and downs, and his did just as anyone else's did. But his highs were higher than almost anybody. It's just a shame that his high and lows in his work output never happened with him financially. He never had highs. He always struggled to get movies made. He never got paid shit for them. His budgets were always terrible. So as much as we sometimes like to rag on some of the guy's later movies, he will definitely be missed, and it's a shame.
What did he do with Stephen King? Was it Creepshow?
Oh no, The Dark Half, I think.
Was it Dark Half? Because I know Stephen King also said something on Twitter about him, like my favorite collaborator or something like that.
Yeah, didn't he direct The Dark Half? I feel like he did.
You look that up while I go to the next news, because it involves Stephen King as well. So you read The Dark Tower, right?
I have read through the entire series twice.
Twice. So in reading about the new Dark Tower movie, it sounds like this is actually going to be a sequel to the books.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that what you're going to watch you haven't read yet?
It's really hard to describe without giving a spoiler to the end of the entire series, but this could definitely be a sequel and have a lot of stuff from the series in it. I think it was actually a really smart way to be able to do this and make a lot of changes and just say, well, we're not adapting the series, we're doing a sequel to it.
Well, there's always been talk of there being a TV series that was a companion to this movie, and I guess that is still in play. Ron Howard, I guess, had been attached to it before. I don't know if he still is, but it's still part of the plan, and I have no idea if it's going to be a prequel, a sequel, or something. But the companion series, I guess, is still in play, and I guess it's really going to depend on how well the movie does. If it's a flop, probably not going to happen. If it does well, it'll probably happen. So, as a book reader, you probably know exactly like where this would fit in.
It could be really interesting. I remember hearing it the first time and thinking you could do some of the really bigger action set pieces in the movies with a higher budget and then do some of the character building and stuff and then have each one build up to a movie. It was a really novel, interesting idea. Um, yeah, I thought that had died. I thought when Ron Howard stepped away that that was gone, but I guess not.
Yeah, the Avi, Akiva Goldman was telling Deadline about this. I don't know who that is. So I'm curious because the trailers have not really thrilled us, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
That's that's putting it lightly.
Again, oh yeah, I'm wearing kid gloves. I would say when Hunter's not here, we're so much more kinder and gentler.
Yeah, this is going so smoothly. It's amazing.
Uh, so it's funny because this whole idea of doing things as a mini series instead of a movie, they're now talking about doing a Watchmen series. Uh, Even though the Watchmen movie's not that old, somebody's thinking about going back, and really that's probably the way to do the Watchmen would be do it as like a Netflix series, maybe do like a 22 episode thing or something where you could really spend time on each piece of that thing and give it the right due, and maybe don't that movie when they adapted it they were slavish to a lot of stuff too much and ignored a lot of other stuff or changed other stuff that I give it an A for effort and sort of a C for execution. So
That
I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else take a shot at it and maybe.
Yeah, that's a movie that grew on me the second and third time I watched it actually. The first time I liked it, but I was kind of disappointed. And I liked it more as I watched it, and I feel like I accepted some of the changes they made. Um, but I can't blame them for not doing giant tentacles at the end.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, if they did a series, I would love to see them try that.
It would be very cool. But trying to worm that into a 3 hour movie.
For 3 hour movie, yeah, no, I actually thought that conceit was okay, and I also thought that I liked they slightly changed the owl guy's what the hell's his name, Night Owl's reaction at the end, where he was like freaking out instead of just sort of going off to take a nap with his girlfriend. Nap.
Right.
But I didn't like the casting of Ozymandias or what's her name, Malin Ackerman as what the hell is that?
It's been a while, man. I know.
Yeah, I forget her name. Anyway, but I thought Jackie Earle Haley was perfect as Rorschach,
as he is in almost everything except Freddy Krueger.
There's something else they were thinking about making him. Oh, World War Z is the thing that should have been a miniseries instead of a movie.
Yeah, that World War Z is such a tough book to adapt. I think they just wanted the name. I mean, if we're being honest, because anyone who's read the book knows there is no main character like that. It's just a bunch of short stories of battles and surviving, and
it's a weird book.
It is. It's good, but it's different.
Yeah. Okay, the most interesting piece of news, in my opinion, Quentin Tarantino has written and is going to direct a Manson family movie. The script details are fuzzy, but the story centers on Sharon Tate, the actress and wife of director Roman Polanski, who was murdered by the Manson family and his followers in 1969. Both Jennifer Lawrence and Brad Pitt have already been approached, but there's no official connection to either one at this time. So Manson family has been done before, but not by somebody like Quentin Tarantino.
That would be interesting. I wonder how he's even going to approach that with the way he does dialogue, and that'll be really interesting.
I'd love to see who he gets to play Manson. Like, is he thinking Brad Pitt to play Charles Manson?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
He's a fascinating character, so.
Manson, oh, man. I could watch interviews with that guy all day. He's so bizarre.
That's one of those roles. I think there's going to be some actors who are like, I don't want to go anywhere near that, and other actors are like, let me at it.
Yeah. When did they announce it? I haven't heard that yet.
I think last week.
Wow.
I had been hearing that he was going to do a horror movie. So I don't know if this is the horror movie or doesn't really sound like it, but it sounds like it's going to have some horrific elements in it. But
Yeah, depending on how you adapt that, they did some screwed up shit.
yeah, so one thing I like about this is this will really, you know, I'm sure I've seen some of these movies, but it's been a long time, and I don't really see myself going back and watching Helter Skelter again. So it'll be
Right.
kind of a way to get reacquainted. I did watch the Fearless Vampire Killers, which is an old vampire movie spoof that Roman Polanski is in and Sharon Tate's in. And when you watch it, it's a very silly. It's kind of like a Hammer horror spoof movie. Uh, Sharon Tate is freaking beautiful. Like the whole time you're watching it, you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And so then you're thinking about it, like, oh my god, that's the Manson murder woman. So
I've never even heard of that movie.
Roman Polanski's in it. I watched it last October. It's sort of a cult classic horror movie from like the 60s.
I didn't even realize he acted. I didn't know.
Yeah, before he got deported for
Diddling kids.
That's all the news I got for you this week. You got anything?
I don't think so. I think you covered it all. I just wanted to make sure we talked about how we were just shitting on the poor guy and then he dies.
That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, I did this, didn't I?
It's like, man, of all the weeks for his name to come up and us to be like, oh god. Well,
And
I wonder what's going to happen with that crazy movie you were talking about.
yeah, that was the other thing. Well, I guess he had a few screenplays completed, so I'm sure his brand name's going to go way up for the next few years. So I'm sure there's going to be people getting a hold of those, and George A. Romero's Road of the Dead. And
But didn't they just announce that movie last week when you picked up on it?
it had just been announced recently. So
Okay, but he's apparently been dying of cancer for a little while, so the timing of that is weird.
I don't know if I don't know how far they are into making it or not. So
I don't know. Maybe somebody else will pick it up now. Although it
there's
sounds
got to
really
be there's too much. There's no content out there, so these guys have got to, anything that now his name will be hot. So I guarantee this. I'll
yeah, someone will shit on
guarantee.
his legacy. What's that?
I guarantee that the Road of the Dead will be made with the absolute zero insider information that I have.
All right. Well, for the most civil final guys yet, let's go ahead and jump into our viewing stuff of the week. How many do you have? It looked like you got through quite a few.
I have two or three.
Okay. Then I'll do a couple here and we'll kind of go back and forth since we don't have the three of us. And now comes the favorite part where my glasses get completely blown out as I read off the list of the movies everybody bitches about. But I watched this week on Netflix. It was a movie you'd already talked about. You told me about it, so I checked it out. XX, the horror anthology, completely directed, written, produced, and everything by women. And I liked it. Pretty much right where you are. It was good. The stories were really good. It didn't really seem to have one of those segments like most anthologies have that is just terrible. Some were stronger than others, but there wasn't one that I just couldn't believe actually got in the movie. I thought it was good. I thought the wraparound segment was a stop motion thing.
Yeah, that was
Looked interesting, but I didn't understand. I don't know. It didn't add to the movie for me. I prefer ones like. Did you see Southbound?
I saw Southbound and I don't remember much about it. I wasn't crazy about that movie.
The wrap was kind of its own story, and the segments. So, like at the end of one segment, you would see a ball rolling past the guy, and then the camera would go to the ball, and that would start the next segment.
Oh,
And just
I don't remember that.
it really, it wasn't a ball. It was actually something else. I don't know if it was someone walking or whatever, but they would do things like that, and it was interesting, and it made the rap not boring and weird. And so I don't know. I feel like that movie kind of ruined other raps for me. But it's a solid movie. Anyone with Netflix, definitely worth checking out. There's some good stuff in there. The first segment, called The Box, was adapted by a Jack Ketchum short story. So, of course, that had some really interesting stuff going on. I dug it. I then watched a movie I thought was going to be horror, but it definitely was not, on, was it Amazon Prime, called Nerve, starring Emma Roberts and Dave Franco.
Oh, oh, I know that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a good
That's
movie.
already on Netflix
Yeah, it's on
or
Prime
Amazon
already.
Prime.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was going to be horror, but it was a fun thriller. Basically, there's an app on your phone, and if you join it, you can be a watcher or I don't remember what it is, but you're basically somebody who does tricks or stunts or pranks for money. And the crazier the pranks get, the more money you get, the more people following you. You higher up, you kind of go in this tournament to try to win a bunch of stuff. And as things go in these movies, it went south. It was interesting. The third act got a little wonky. You know, it's always a balancing act in these stories. You want to escalate the action. You want to escalate the tense, how tense it is, and things. Wow, all of a sudden I just forgot how to speak all of a sudden. And when you get to the third act, sometimes these movies go too far, and I felt like this kind of had a little bit of that. But the directing was really interesting, very new age kind of thing. You're getting a lot of text messages over the screen, things like that can be annoying sometimes in movies, but worked well in this. I thought it was decent. So
It looked like it was aimed towards like 20 somethings.
100%. Yeah, this was I could appreciate it. I liked it, but it was definitely for people younger than me. So
Because it's funny, some younger folks that I work with, I'll be talking about something and they'll quickly be like, "Well, that's the way we are, and that's the way And so like I watch something in a movie, I'm like, "That's so dumb," and they're like, "Oh no, that's totally the way like we do things or how it happens." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm officially over the hill." Put me up the
millennials,
path. Yeah, millennials.
aren't they great? So what do you got?
So first of all, I did the homework that Hunter gave us last week and watched The World's End.
Oh yeah. And
I even paid money.
whoa,
But you know what? I was flipping through horror movies and I was like, nothing was really floating my boat. And I was like, you know what? Let me check it out. I liked it. Probably my least favorite of the Cornetto. Is that what you call it? The Cornetto trilogy, which of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and this. Has some great moments. Nick Frost and what's his name? Simon Pegg are great in it. The woman from what the hell's that movie? Gone Girl is in it.
okay, yeah.
Martin Freeman, Bilbo Baggins, he's in it. So there's a lot of star power in it. Pretty good. These guys are going on they're sort of older guys, and Simon Pegg's a guy who sort of has never really grown up, and he wants to go do this pub crawl that they never really finished. And then some crazy crap goes down in sort of the end of the world. I don't want to give away too much. If you've seen the trailers, you can see it, but has the typical who is Edgar Wright, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it has that speed and vibe and tone of all those movies. Similar kind of gags. I thought it maybe kind of ran out of gas a little bit at the end, but definitely a good watch. Anything Edgar Wright does is worth watching. So I've completed the Cornetto trilogy.
Okay, see, I don't think I even realized Edgar Wright did that. I thought it must have just been a Simon Pegg movie.
He may or may not. I'm pretty sure Edgar Wright is in that whole. Maybe I'll Google it while we're talking.
Yes, he did it.
I thought so because it has that frenetic feel. There's always like a scene where they're doing something and they do quick cut zoom thing where like they're getting dressed or getting ready to do something and they go like. If you've seen the movies, you know what I'm talking about.
With those exact sound effects.
It's me in a room. I'm
What else you got?
Okay, so the next one I watched, I don't know if you ever saw this. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever watched in my life. It's the WNUF Halloween Special.
No.
It is I saw it, I think, because I watched that Ghost Watch movie, and I don't know if it's related to that or whatever, but it is I'm using air quotes, found footage movie. It was filmed in 2013, but it's supposed to take place in 1987. And basically, it's like you're watching a videotape of a local TV channel news broadcast with commercials and everything. And you watch like half the news, and they keep teasing that after the news there's going to be a special show where a reporter is going to a house where 30 years ago there was a murder, and they're going to go in with a paranormal team and do a seance, the first seance on TV, and they're going to investigate this haunted house live. So they literally do like 15 minutes of the news with commercials that look like they came from 1987, and the authenticity of this of the 1987's TV production is amazing. It's the whole reason to watch this. Then they do the entire broadcast from the house with this guy. It's kind of comedy-ish. This guy like doing it, and there's all kinds of stuff, and then slowly like scarier things are happening in the house. So it's got that found footage thing going. It's kind of clumsily executed towards the end, but they go to commercial like all the time in it, kind of like in real life when you were watching something on regular TV, and they just kept like you're trying to watch a horror movie, and at midnight when you were a kid, and all of a sudden there was 25 minutes of commercial. Every 5 minutes there was commercials. So at one point I was getting really pissed off. I'm like, all right, I get the idea with this, but so when I walked away, I was like, I never need to watch this movie again, but I'm glad I watched it once just to see in the catalog of found footage movies, these guys did something different, and it's certainly entertaining. So it's a must see, even though it's only okay, but it's so well done.
What's the name of it again?
The WNUF Halloween Special.
And this was where?
I watched it. I think it's on Shudder.
Okay. I'm going to add that to my queue and hopefully watch it this weekend. That sounds very interesting.
The commercials are so well done. I can't believe like they filmed them in 2013. They are so authentic.
Did they have Michael J. Fox trying to drink Pepsi? Because I think that was on every commercial break in the 80s.
It was more like your local channel stuff. So it would be like, come to this dentist, or an anti-drug message, or a video store, or come learn computers. Computers can help you. It's stuff like that. I watched it last night. I'm just like, my mouth was open. I'm like, what am I watching? So it's definitely entertaining.
I'm looking forward to
one of the most different things I've ever seen.
I'm really looking forward to that.
The other thing I watched, it was on, and this is why I still love regular TV and cable and stuff, because the beauty of flicking around and finding something. Cursed was on, the werewolf movie with Christina Ricci.
The Wes Craven movie?
The Wes Craven movie. It's got Judy Greer's in it, and what's his name, who was Lex Luthor, was in it as Christina Ricci's brother. And I actually enjoyed the movie more this time than when I saw it whenever the heck it came out.
Really?
I thought it was kind of it was trying to be kind of funny, and I was looking for a better werewolf movie from Wes Craven.
Yeah, I remember really hating the special effects in it.
With time and sort of like running into it at like 10 o'clock at night and going, oh, Cursed is on. Flicked over to a baseball game for a few seconds, and I went back and I was like, you know what? It's been so long. Just left it on, and I just enjoyed watching it from a nostalgia standpoint. And so again, it's not the greatest movie, but there's a lot of bad werewolf movies out there, and so they really go for it. The humor. I mean, like at one point, a werewolf gives somebody else the finger and stuff like that. So I think I was just in a better mindset for something like that at this point. Whereas when I first saw it, I was like expecting something more like American Werewolf in London.
Was there ever an extended cut of that or anything?
I don't know.
Hearing. Okay.
I never really I haven't thought about that movie in so long. And
me either. I so disliked it when I first saw it that I never considered watching it again, but maybe I should check it out.
It was interesting for some of the people that pop up in it. Like the guy who was in Heroes and played Sylvester Stallone's son in the Rocky Balboa movie.
Milo, something.
He plays like the school bully who ends up being gay.
Really?
He's in it. And I was like, oh, that's him. Like, it's funny sometimes when you go back and watch these movies. Like, if you go back and watch Dracula 2000, you see all these people like Gerard Butler, the guy who plays Sherlock. All these people are in that movie before they were anybody. So sometimes it's fun to just be like, oh, look who's in this movie, that guy.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I do like sometimes seeing those because, particularly when it's a teen movie like that, they those people actually go on to become something. So
Yeah.
okay, I might check it out again at some point. It's been like 10 years since I saw it, I think. So
I really only watched it because I was passing it by, and it was a good like late night watch.
all right. All right, well, let me get through my last two things here, and then I will save my book thing for next week since I did not finish it, and I know how much you love that. All right. I watched a movie just this week that I had not seen in a long time, and I couldn't remember much of it, called The Ambulance from 1990, starring James Earl Jones and the amazing Eric Roberts and his hair.
Oh,
Yeah, his hair is so glorious in this, man. I absolutely love it. It's a story about Eric Roberts' character, whose name I can't remember, is trying to pick up this woman on the street. He sees her every day. He thinks she's beautiful, so he just starts trying to pick her up. She's not having any of it, and then she starts feeling really bad and kind of collapses in the sidewalk in the middle of New York City, and an ambulance comes and picks her up, and he tells her he'll meet her at the hospital, and when he gets there, she's never been admitted. And he checks every hospital all over the city, and she's never been admitted anywhere. So he kind of goes on this personal quest trying to find out what happened to her. He runs into her roommate pretty early in the movie, as they're both looking for the same person, and then she disappears. And more weird things start to happen. It's actually a really cool storyline and idea. And if you like 80s and 90s movies, this fits perfectly into the terrible music, terrible clothes, hilarious glasses, overacting. James Earl Jones overacting in this is something to behold. He has a scene in it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but you'll recognize it. It's right around the middle. Oh my god. I'd love to know the direction he was getting during this scene. It was, I believe, written and directed by Larry Cohen, who's done a bunch of interesting things, including, It's Alive, I think was him. Phone Booth. I don't think he's directed anything in a long time. He did The Stuff. He did.
was Phone Booth the what's his name? Colin Farrell or?
Yes, he wrote that movie. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. Yeah. So that was just one I'd heard of. I don't remember who told me about it, and I went out and found a copy. But it's actually a decent little movie. It suffers from 80s-itis really bad, but if you like Eric Roberts and his lovely acting, then you're going to like this movie. The other
Eric
one
Roberts.
I watched. What's that?
Eric Roberts is a Hall of Famer.
Oh, man. Between this movie and Best of the Best, I just fell in love with his work all over again. I could watch that guy forever. The other movie I found is a gem on Amazon Prime that I just stumbled across that blew my mind. It's called Bad Ben. It has got to be... Have you seen Bad Ben?
I have seen it, and I have something to tell you when you're done.
Okay. It's got to be the cheapest made movie I've ever seen.
Yep.
I looked it up, and the budget literally said $300, so I don't know if that's him buying a GoPro.
300? Oh, my God.
I mean, it's starring one guy, only has one guy's voice, everything. He wrote, directed, starred, produced. It's clearly done in his house. And it is a found footage movie, but it's more comedy than anything. At least I'm hoping that was his intent, because his dialogue in this is some of the greatest shit I have ever heard, but I'm not sure how much of it was supposed to be funny.
I agree.
This dude in his house, and he bought it to flip it, and he's experiencing weird things. He thinks people keep breaking in, so he has these security cameras around the house to try to pick it up. And it's basically just this dude stumbling around his house yelling and cursing at ghosts is basically what the movie is. But as I was watching it, because the guy was so vulgar and so funny to me, I kept thinking, this is Jack Campisi's Haunted Adventure. That's literally what I was thinking the whole time. Was if you were walking around with an iPhone swearing at ghosts, it would be the same movie.
The only difference is once like there's a scene where he gets like punched in the bed by the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I'm out of there.
Oh yeah. But not him. He just washes up, swears at it, throws away its shit. Oh,
That is a definite like good, kind of like the WNUF thing. It was like it's not the greatest movie in the world, but you got to watch it because he tries things that haven't been done in found footage movies before. He tries something like they go for it with no budget. They actually explain some stuff better than other found footage movies do as to, okay, the security camera thing works, and he's trying to document it. Why he doesn't leave because he sunk so much money in the house
right.
works. Yeah. The big news on this, though, is there's a prequel to that on, I don't know if it's on Amazon Prime or on Shudder, that a friend of mine has watched and I have not watched yet. So we should both watch that this week.
Okay.
And then from what he said, it's terrible.
I can't imagine how it's going to improve upon Bad Ben.
It's a couple, so I guess it might be the couple that was there before him.
Well, just imagine this movie if you take this guy out of it without his dialogue.
The best thing about this guy is he's just this normal looking, older guy. He's balding. He's got a gut. He is totally like a guy you would be in back of line in at Walmart or something like that. He does not look like a movie star whatsoever. And he acts like your neighbor made a movie. Like
there's a scene in it around the middle, maybe 3/4, where he does a seance with a selfie stick holding an iPhone, and he's got a candle, and he's just walking around his house. Oh, it's the best. I laughed so freaking hard at this movie. There's the one part where he gets locked out of his house. He's on the phone with the security guy, and he gets locked out, and he turns around, tries to open the door. He's just, oh, fuck my life, in this Jersey accent.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
There were one or two good, like, horror moments. Like, there's one where he's inside, and I don't think he sees it, but we see a shadow walk by the door.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things like that. I was like, oh, that was actually well done.
There's one really good jump scare in this that almost made my wife shit her pants. So it's got that going for it. Everybody check out Bad Ben on Amazon and let me know how much of the dialogue you think is supposed to be funny versus scary or what the deal is. But I am fascinated by this movie. We should have him on this show just to interview this guy.
Yes. And I don't remember what the prequel is called, but it's out there, so we got to look it up.
Like something Steelmanville Road, something like that, because that's where he lived. I think that's what it's called. But we'll definitely watch that for this week. Report back for next week.
I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
All right. So here is the part where we don't have any sponsors to read our stuff yet. So we're just going to jump right into the main feature, which was the third movie in the new Planet of the Apes set of films called War for the Planet of the Apes. And because Hunter didn't get to watch it, we can actually have a nice civil conversation about this.
Yes, we can.
And we're probably, since we have good taste, in agreement about this movie, I'm guessing. But if you don't mind, would you like to give a little tiny synopsis on it?
It's got to be tiny because I saw it like a week ago. And
just the overview,
First of all, it's Steelmanville Road, a Bad Ben prequel.
Beautiful.
Well, Steelmanville Road. So, War of the Planet of the Apes takes place 2 years after the last one, which is, what's that, Dawn of Planet of the Apes? Or Rise of Planet of the Apes?
Dawn.
Caesar and his group are holed up in the woods in sort of a little fortress, and a team of human soldiers has been hunting him for the past couple of years, and they finally sort of track them down. So there's a skirmish between the two. Woody Harrelson is this driven colonel who's on a mission to save humanity and kill the apes, and it turns into a quest for Caesar and some of the apes to track down the stronghold of the humans, and they end up with a little girl that they find along the way, and she's mute, and she comes to play into it, and then there's a whole sort of prison camp piece to this movie before you sort of get to the war part. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's good. You really can't say too much else, or you'll start hitting spoiler territory. But that summed it up really well. Let's just jump into it. First of all, what did you think?
You know, I thought it was a very good movie. I don't know if you can see, but I've got an original Planet of the Apes T-shirt on. I'm a big fan of the original Planet of the Apes movies. I really like the first one of this trilogy with James Franco. Was lukewarm on the second one. I thought this one was much better than the second one. It looked spectacular. I thought it was a very well written. I couldn't believe I was watching CG apes at some points. I was like, this looks like a real animal talking. Like the special effects come so far. Very well written movie. The only thing is, like, with these movies, unlike the originals for me, is I see it, I thought it was good, and then I kind of go on my business and don't really think about it much after that. Like, it's not like Lord of the Rings where it's like, I want to see that again, and I want to get the DVDs and everything. It was just sort of like, yep, good movie, a lot going on, enjoyable, but doesn't really have, like, enough for me to really become like the Marvel movies. I have every Blu-ray and I watch them every time they're on. These movies I enjoy, and I'll probably revisit it, down the road sometime. But it's very good, but not like one of my all-time favorites or anything like that.
Okay, I loved this. I thought it was outstanding, just like the other two. The first movie I had absolutely no interest in seeing when it first came out, and it blew me away. I really was surprised at how much I liked it. Because, like you, I'm a big fan of the originals, and I wasn't excited. And when I found out they're all CG instead of being people in suits, I was really concerned. But you're right, man. The special effects in this, you want to talk about just smashing the uncanny valley. I mean, this looks so good. I just couldn't believe it.
They had extreme close-ups of apes and the emoting that they were doing.
Yeah, you make a good point in that this movie is starring the apes. The other movies had a lot of human characters who were at least half of the time in it. This movie is just about Caesar and his companions as they're on a journey. And the emoting happening on Caesar's face, some of the looks he gives when he's riding on horseback and stuff are just, it's unbelievable. After I left the movie theater, it occurred to me, I just watched a movie that was about half of it was apes signing at each other.
Yeah.
Not even speaking. There's huge sections of this with very little dialogue, and I was in it the whole time. I thought Woody Harrelson was fantastic, as always. I mean, that guy, you want to talk about an unheralded actor. He's in a ton of stuff, but I don't think his name comes up as much as it probably should. Especially
when you think about the fact that he started in Cheers as Woody the goofball, and now he is just crushing it. Everything he's in, he's spectacular in it. He can do goofy, funny, and he can do intense like this. And one thing about him is immediately you compare him to Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. And he even said that. He goes, that's the obvious comparison. But he said, I tried to be as non-Marlon Brando as possible because that's been done and can't be topped. So he made a concerted effort to not be doing an impression of Apocalypse Now. And I think he did it. He sort of captured a similar character, but was a totally different guy. And the intensity, and he's talking, just imagine those scenes. He's talking to Andy Serkis in his outfit with ping pong balls all over it. And the two of them are coming up with this scene that's the acting is almost as good as Bad Ben.
The dialogue's not there though. I mean, let's be
There's
real.
no selfie stick in this, though.
I was missing the monkey seance. This is what I was really missing from this movie. Yeah, he had a great performance. I did not hear him talking about that, what he was trying to do with it, but you're exactly right. He was crazy, but he wasn't Marlon Brando crazy where he's staring at the ceiling giving long monologues. He was intense, and it worked really well. And that scene that you were just talking about where he was talking to Caesar, I think I'm trying to recall, but I think that might have been the only scene of exposition in the whole movie. The rest of it, you kind of figure things out. When they find the girl, you figure a little bit out. They find some bodies, you figure a little bit out. But most of it's just through actions that this movie's story is told. Except for that one scene with Woody Harrelson, he kind of tells you his motivation for what he's doing and for why he's so crazy. But other than that, this movie, it really doesn't have much dialogue. And for the story to work so well is shocking. But I think it really speaks to the filmmaking here. It was done so well.
It's funny because when you think about the original movies, the charm of those is those are sci-fi action movies. The apes are the bad guys for a lot of it, and then the old, the further you get in, the more the humans start to be. But they're great adventure movies. These new ones, the humans are generally the bad guys. When you get to this movie and this kind of epic story they're telling with monkeys, and you're watching it, and you walk out and you're going, most movies with humans aren't executing as well as this one does. So again, like, you can nitpick here or there, but just as a piece of art, this thing is really, really, really good.
Yeah, these movies shouldn't work. I mean, let's be honest. We're watching apes riding horses that are CG generated, and they're signing to each other instead of speaking, and it's incredible. I mean, it really shocks me. I wanted to, before we get into spoilers, talk about one or two other things that I thought worked really well. The comic relief ape, whose name I can't remember, he's kind of balding.
Bad Ape.
Bad Ape, yes, thank you. That could have not worked well, but to me it completely added to it. It kind of eased some of the tension in scenes, and because he could speak, it gave somebody else in the movie a voice for once, and I thought he worked really well.
That was Steve Zahn.
Really?
Yeah. Who I loved ever since That Thing You Do.
I did not know that.
That's him. And yeah, when he first shows up, there's a couple of moments where you're going, okay, where are we going with this guy? And then quickly you realize he's working, and you're right. He kicks the movie up a notch. He adds. You desperately needed a couple of moments of comic relief that he gives, but it's not Jar Jar Binks just falling down goofy. He's very expressive, and you care about him. So he was definitely the most likely to derail this movie, and he didn't. He helped it.
Yeah, which I think again speaks to the filmmaking of this.
The interesting thing about him too, which we can talk more about in spoilers, but he's an ape that didn't sort of evolve in Caesar's tribe. So you kind of get to see what apes outside that were going through stuff like that, what their journey was. So there was a little bit of world building there.
Yeah, I thought that was all really interesting. I thought even the way they started the movie, right out of the credits, it's action within 30 seconds of the credits ending. It kind of starts, I want to say it was out of focus, and then it just slowly focuses as the credits go, and you see it's just this huge, I don't know if a platoon would be the right word, probably not, but a large group of soldiers, and then an attack happens, and it's just from then on it's going. And there really weren't many weak spots of this movie I can point to. There's one or two things I'll talk about in spoilers that I don't want to say bugged me, but maybe I thought weren't quite realistic, but not. I'm literally nitpicking. I really didn't think there was a lot to this movie that somebody could point to and say it was not well done.
Let's do spoilers then.
Okay. Well, before we do, I want to tell everyone, go to finalguys.com as usual, blah, blah, blah. Follow us on Twitter. But seriously, people, we want to have discussions about these movies with you. So if you hit us up on Twitter, you'll find all of our individual Twitter accounts there. Or you can find us, I think we're just at Final Guys on Twitter and Facebook. Let us know what you think of these movies, and let us know if there are movies coming up, because we're kind of in the dregs of summer here, and the release window on some of these is either very small or they're not coming out for a while or whatever it is. So give us some ideas. Let us know what you think. And anything you want to talk
feedback is good.
Yeah, we definitely need it. And we really need reviews on iTunes. We've got a couple right now, but we'd like to get quite a bit more out there and really start pushing the show. So if you could help us out, we would appreciate it. All right, we're delving into spoilers here, people. So if you haven't seen this, now's the time to bow out. What did you think, Jack, about the ending with Woody Harrelson coming down with the thing that drove him to do all this crazy shit in the first place?
I was kind of surprised by the whole thing. I had this thing in my head about the blood on the doll to begin with. So there was a part of me I didn't call it, but when I was like, oh, okay, the blood on the doll. So I thought that was a really clever thing, because I was expecting like the typical fight between the two of them that starts with guns and ends with fisticuffs. And instead it's almost like a No Country for Old Men kind of twist where, wait, I came to confront you and you're blithering in, a pile of your own saliva. Like it was. So that I actually thought that was a really bold choice, and I think it was a refreshing change from. At the same time, I kind of wish there was a little more Woody Harrelson in this movie. So when that did happen, I was like, that's it for him. Like maybe we should have seen a little bit more of him in action earlier in the movie.
I agree with basically everything you just said. I thought the way they did that was really well done, and it tricked you because you were expecting the big fight, the big shootout, the big whatever, and you don't get that. It's just this guy's worst fear and his true biggest enemy that he was trying to fight against gets him, and that's it. It's over. So I thought that was, like you said, that was a huge risk, just like the comic relief Ape, that completely worked and could have just derailed the movie, and it didn't. The other thing I 100% agree with is more Woody Harrelson. He was set up to be the big bad guy, and he was, but not for all that long. Would have liked a little more.
That other soldier was played into it, but he was always really portrayed as a side guy. And then at the end of the movie, you're like, wow, that guy really had a lot of impact on this movie.
Which was something else I wanted to bring up, that they set that guy up the whole time to be the redemption story, that he was going to change his mind and help.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope. Dick to the end. That was great.
That leads right into the whole donkeys, the apes that are fighting for the humans. I thought that was a brilliant concept.
Man, it made you feel bad for them, even as they're doing these terrible things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this movie the original Planet of the Apes are the bad guys, right? So with a little tweaking, you could make this movie where the humans are the good guys and the apes are the bad guys. They went this route, and so the humans are treating the apes poorly, which I get. But I kept thinking to myself, I sort of missed where the humans are the good guys sometimes with these. So I saw this with my buddy, and we came out, and I think that both of us enjoyed it, but we weren't blown away. And I said something like, maybe if they knocked like 10 minutes off this movie. And I think everything, I don't think there's a lot of fat on this movie, but for a movie that's called War of the Planet of the Apes, there's a lot of quiet moments in this. And I was never bored, but at the same time, there was a little bit that I was like, okay, I am seeing a lot of great emoting and character development from apes. And the second movie in this trilogy had a lot of fighting, and I wasn't that crazy about it, so maybe I'm just contradicting myself, but there was something where I just felt like, maybe they could have souped it up just a tad, but I'm kind of nitpicking. It's just I felt...
Do you think it's because of the end battle you didn't see that much of it, and what you did see was kind of on the short side?
maybe that end battle looked phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great, but it didn't what you saw didn't last long. A lot of it was Caesar, you know, inside and the apes on the outside. You didn't see a ton of it right up front.
I thought it was interesting that there was really not a fight between the apes and the humans. It was humans fighting humans and apes running away, and then basically it was the Great Escape, the Great Ape Escape. So there were a lot of surprises there. I don't know, maybe if I watch it again, I won't even think that. I just, I was kind of like, I really liked the movie, but like, like if somebody asked me, like, oh yeah, it's really good. But if like you ask me on Wonder Woman, I'm like, oh yeah, you got to see Wonder Woman. It's so fun. Like maybe that's it. Maybe it's a really good movie, but it's not a fun movie. And so
Okay, so
maybe
you're
that's
looking at
what's
this
bugging me.
almost like you looked at Logan. Like it's really good, but it's a downer in a lot of ways.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I thought this movie was brilliant, honestly. But yeah, if I'm gonna sit and watch, if I've got 10 minutes to watch a really cool scene, I would watch the scene in Wonder Woman where she's crushing, Germans. But yeah, but this movie was way better than Wonder Woman. I mean, to me,
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
wasn't even close. This movie's great. I did say I had two little nitpicky things, and they're nitpicky. It was at the end when the apes are escaping. They take out one guard, and no one else is watching them. And I'm thinking, really? You've been at war with these things for how long? You catch them, and you've got one knucklehead who doesn't want shit thrown at him. Like, what? That's it? Uh, so
I
yeah,
was I was also a little the avalanche was kind of cool, and it was also sort of convenient.
that was the other thing. I didn't like that the entire army is right in the path of this avalanche, and boop, all the soldiers in the world are dead. That was. I get that the movie wasn't about their battle, but still, it was a little convenient, a lot convenient. Um, but again, I'm nitpicking here, you know. But I did want to mention those two things. They bothered me when I was watching it.
There were several Easter eggs in there. They had the scarecrows like that you'd see at the beginning of Planet of the Apes. They
Mm-hmm.
had those, but with apes on them. And then the little girl's name is Nova, which foreshadows Nova from the original.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But she can't be Nova because the Planet of the Apes original isn't like for another like 2,000 years or something like that in the future. So maybe her legacy lived on. But I did kind of like how they were setting up the mute humans in the future. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know where they're going. Are they done with the? It sounds like they're going to keep making. Like this was the end of the Caesar trilogy, and then whatever comes next. I'm always wondering: are they ever going to actually remake the Planet of the Apes with this kind of stuff? Are we ever going to get to the point where you're way in the future and you get humans, or are they just going to keep the originals as the?
I don't know. It's a good question. Did they already announce they're doing a fourth
I
movie?
heard that there's more stories to tell, uh, but they planted a lot of seeds. Like just calling her Nova.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they're planning on doing. I'm guessing this will be Matt Reeves, the director. I'm guessing this would be his last movie. I mean, usually people don't go beyond a trilogy.
He's moving on to the next Batman movie. I think he's going to do a Batman trilogy, which this could be good for the DC universe. Is getting him
Oh, man.
doing Batman.
If you wanted to get excited about DC movies coming up, finding out this guy is doing Batman, wow. I'm all in. This guy, he's got me at all three of these movies I've really enjoyed. And I guess the one big spoiler we should talk about is who dies at the end when Caesar dies. I actually kept expecting Caesar to die at the end of all three of these movies. So I thought they did a really good job stringing you along with that tension. I thought every movie he's done, and finally in this one, but it felt like a good ending point for his story.
Yeah, I totally. Oh, the other Easter egg was his son's name was Cornelius.
Oh shit! You see, I missed all that while I was watching. I was just in. I wasn't. Huh.
So that I mean, there was part of me that was like, well, they could just fast forward like 30 years or 20, 25 years, and now they've got a culture, and the only thing is General Ursus and Dr. Zaius. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I knew he was going to die. I could tell. I could feel it coming. Uh, um, that part. I think that's part of what I liked about it was it put a it put a punctuation at the end of the trilogy, and that his journey. So there is sort of an interest in me now to go back and watch the whole thing. I was reading some article that says what happened to the human guy from the second movie, and I guess in the story, he goes and finds Woody Harrelson, and then Woody Harrelson kills him.
Hmm, that's interesting.
So
Okay. I didn't have time to rewatch the second movie going into this, so I was really concerned I wasn't going to remember a lot of stuff. But
I saw it once, and again, I was really underwhelmed with that one. Maybe if I watch it again, I'll like it. But
that surprised me because I really liked the second one. But all right, let's get into our final thoughts here. Where on our sliding scale of movies would you rank this one?
I would definitely recommend seeing this in the theater. I saw it not in IMAX, but in some kind of 3D. And I usually hate going to 3D because it's never really worth it. This movie actually was one of the movies I appreciated the 3D the most. And maybe
Really?
this 3D I saw it in is better than the IMAX 3D. But there were several times where I noticed like, whoa, this looks cool, especially like at the beginning with the river and the mountain and all that stuff. I was like, oh, this looks really good. So this is and that stuff going on with the apes' faces and things. This is a movie you need to see in a big screen, quiet, no distractions, and an experience. Like I said, it may not be your favorite movie, but it's going to be it's a really good movie. You're going to enjoy it. You're not going to regret seeing it. And just if the story doesn't do anything for you, the Avatar was this thing that was amazing to look at the first time you watched it. I can't even watch that movie again. This won't suffer from that. This is a really good movie. So when you go revisit it, you'll be like, wow, even if the special effects, in a few years look dated, you're still going to be like, holy crap, can you believe they were doing this at this time? So I'm going to say go see it in the theater. And if not, pay per view it when it comes out.
100%. Completely agree. This is a must see in the theater. If you like good movies, and it's a spectacle movie because of the effects, but the way it's done is just so good. I, if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I'd sit and watch a movie with apes signing to each other most of it and love it, I probably would have said no. But this is definitely high up on my list. And I did want to ask you before we get out of here, where do you put this trilogy against other movie trilogies? I was thinking about this when I left. This might be in the top 5 trilogies of all time. When you think Star Wars, Indiana Jones, the Batman trilogy's up there, even though Dark Knight Rises was, definitely a step down. But
You
otherwise,
know, I don't know because I think it's really well done. But again, none of these movies are ones that I really feel like I need to go back and watch again. Whereas I watch 2 of the 3 Dark Knight movies a million times. Dark Knight Rises, I watch parts of. Uh, so
even
again,
Aliens, right? Like Alien and Aliens, both of those movies are better than these. But the third movie is just such a step down.
yeah, it's hard to find a good trilogy. Like
Right.
all 3 are good. So in
This has
that case,
got to be up there.
all 3 movies are good movies. This is probably the best third movie in a long time. I mean, what are other good third movies?
Right. They really don't exist. The third movie is usually
You
what
know,
shits the bed.
Return of the King's pretty good, but
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. I didn't think of that one. Lord of the Rings is up there. Yeah, for
to
sure.
be honest with you, Fellowship of the Ring is like one of my favorite movies of all time. Return of the King has moments of greatness, but the longer it goes, the more you're like, oh, this is a really long movie.
It's got an hour and a half ending.
Yeah, there's certain moments of it, but still, you can't argue with that. The Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi, is kind of weak.
But still, it's
Godfather.
still a good movie. But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
not. It's not
Yeah, I'd
Empire.
have to put it high up there. Well, I mean, what the hell else is? There's stuff that's called trilogies, and then they have a fourth or fifth movie.
Right. Like I call Alien the Aliens trilogy. I'm just talking about the first three,
Yeah.
definitely not the others.
To be honest with you, if you took Star Trek 2, 3, and 4, I think that's a tremendous trilogy because it starts the Wrath of Khan
Mm-hmm.
and it ends with Spock is back and they've taken the ship. The story started in Wrath of Khan. It ends in the voyage home, and those are three. The middle one's the weakest movie, but it still gets Spock resurrected. And then I love Star Trek 4, so I consider that a very strong. Again, it's not an official trilogy, but
Well,
those
yeah,
are three. It's three movies that tell individual stories and one big story.
you don't want to count the first one because that
No,
movie is
I
so
hate
boring.
that. I hate that movie.
All right, people. Obviously, we both liked it. I think I liked it a little more because I think it's amazing. But it was a great trilogy, great film. Definitely see it. And Jack, before we get out of here, what are we doing next week?
Oh, we're gonna watch Hounds of Love, which is a horror movie on VOD. That we call ourselves a horror podcast. We like to talk about genre movies in general that people enjoy, but when we get into these stretches where there's nothing big coming out, we got to go and find things on video on demand that we can watch. And this one, none of us have seen. It's been getting good buzz, and it looks like sort of a nice hardcore, dirty, make you feel bad kind of horror movie, which we were overdue for.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Yeah, we've gone. It'll have been 3 weeks till we do this next week since we've done a horror movies and main feature. So it's definitely time. But check that out, people. That's on video on demand. Shouldn't cost more than a couple bucks, and we'll see you back here next week. Anything you want to sign out with, Jack?
Say thanks for listening, and don't forget to share and comment. Thanks, everybody.
Hunter Shea's a douchebag.
Oh, yeah.
See ya.